In episode number 428 of the Reasons I'm Broke podcast, we covered Joe Manganiello's Deathstroke returning in Zack Snyder's Justice League.
That's not the only thing returning. We have news about Tiny Toons coming back in a reboot on HBO Max.
As voted on by you, the comic book highlight 1 of 2 will be TMNT The Last Ronin number 1.
All of this and so much more on today's show.
Hello and welcome to your award-winning The Reasons I'm Broke podcast, bringing you the reasons we're broke every single week, ranging from comics, movies, TV, video games, and more. I am Chaser Daniel.
And I am Sleepy Kelli.
Once again, Sleepy Kelli this week.
Always sleepy now. It's just my life.
For those of you new to the show, the way we format it is first we go through some news. We head into our Patreon shoutouts of the week, although this week we do have What's New on Netflix for the November 2020 highlights. We head into our comic book highlights this week, and finally we end it with the Brokehead block, which is what Kelli and I have been doing.
We're going to kick it off with some comic news this week, though. As covered last week, UCS is no longer distributing DC books, and all duties will instead go to the remaining company, Lunar.
According to a private source at Bleeding Cool, UCS was handling and distributing 4 times more DC books than Lunar. That right there rings an alarm bell for me.
This private source, was his name Jeeves Steppy?
They won't be able to handle all of these DC books. You should just shut them down. Keep distributing. Don't go with them. Go back to Diamond. I hear they're swell over there.
I hear they're real upstanding fellows.
Over by there. I don't know why he's Chicagoan now.
So, in response to this Jeeves Steppy comment, Lunar has stated that they are bulking up their warehouse and hiring on even more staff to handle this extra volume and the orders.
I hope Lunar is actually as corrupt. In a way, they're also a rival gang, and they're like, we're beefing up our own staff, too, with semi-automatics.
Are the semi-automatics going to work the printing machines?
Yeah, the printing machines. It'll print on people. It's like, fuck, man. They're not even hiding this. I went through the comment section of Bleeding Cool when this broke, and we don't know if this is true or not, but I was kind of looking to see if maybe some retailers would chime in to this news story. And it looks like there were some customers as well. But the ones that I picked out, the first one comes from commenter Lapsed Reader, who said, quote, "My LCS switched from UCS to Lunar in September. Even now, the shipments have been slow and inconsistent, so much so that the LCS has stopped showcasing and promoting new DC product. My guess is that Lunar will not be able to handle this increase in distribution, even with getting beefy," end quote.
On the flip side, we have a comment from Douglas Abramson, who responded, quote, "But then you have my LCS, who once everything was actually set up and running with Lunar, has had almost no issues with them, which is a hell of a lot more than I can say about their diamond shipments the last few months," end quote. Funny fact, Douglas has not been seen from since this comment was posted.
This was his final comment, and all his social media handles mysteriously disappeared.
Unsolved mysteries of Douglas Abramson.
I'm not going to lie, I was worried for sure. And then I saw these comments of like, well, my shop uses Lunar, they don't have any issues. And it makes no sense in worrying until that happens. It is going to be a pain in the ass as we do yet another process and another change onto this new distributor. If it's true at all that Lunar is now going to be getting 4 times more, either way, they were going to get way more work than they could handle at the time, because obviously you staff, you labor for the work that you have, and now it's going to be a complete change for both companies on both sides, and even for comic shops that are switching on over as well.
How long do you think until Steve Jeppy gets to them too?
We don't know. Again, we don't know if this will be something that's just a move to try to get them back onto Diamond. Hopefully it is, and hopefully Lunar ends up working out fine. But I think if DC had any plans on going back to Diamond, instead of saying, okay, well, we're just going to go straight to Lunar, they would, I think by now, have moved back, especially with the contracts ending at the 6-month mark. And now there's going to be another contract with Lunar, and if they decide not to re-sign up after that one is over, what does that mean for DC physical books after that? Will Diamond then have the leg up of, look, we're your only distributor at this point. Now we're going to give you, you're really going to take it up the ass. We're going to give you an even worse contract, and you can't leave us unless you completely stop printing comics.
We're going to make you an offer you really can't refuse.
It's so true. It's, Steve's plan, that madman. It's all for the greater good of Diamond.
I can't, going back, what is it, a year now, sitting in that room, DC's like, we think we're going to leave, Steve. That's fine. Go ahead and leave. Do whatever you want to do. We'll see each other again
Who's
soon.
stopping you? Good job, Steve. He's this mastermind. I love it. Steve Jeppy. Hell of a guy.
So let me ask you. We love you, Steve. You're great. So I don't know if you even know this information yet, but I know right now you're going through, of course, UCS, and you have to have your orders in earlier than you did previously. Is that the same with Lunar?
We have no idea,
Okay.
and that's a great question because right now I've got to do the final order cutoffs on a separate day. I've got to do the FOC on a separate day, and we have to do shipment on a separate day. I guess it's breaking up the work as far as shipment, so instead of Tuesday being a bigger size shipment than normal, we get most of those, we get a third of our books or whatever DC ends up being on Mondays. Well, we break it down on Mondays and file them and everything, and then we do Indie and Marvel on Tuesdays. So that helps on that end. It makes Tuesdays a little bit better. That being said, we're now doing shipment on 2 days instead of one. Mm-hmm. But where it is double the work is FOC and final orders, which I have to have a separate shift for because they need theirs on a separate day. I hope Lunar's ends up streamlining it better. I don't think it will be. I think it's going to be a matter of the day is just going to change. What I am worried about is Lunar does not seem to have a final order cutoff page, which means that I theoretically won't be able to set up any, hey, everyone, if you need these DC books, let us know by this Monday. Here's a list of the highlights, and here's where you can find the rest of them or whatever it is. If Lunar doesn't have it, and from the sounds of retailers, they're saying it's a very simple site that doesn't have any of those tools like UCS does, then that's going to be a big problem. And at the end, that's going to hurt DC's bottom line, and it's going to hurt comic shops as well.
Maybe you can suggest it. Maybe you can work for them.
Well, I don't want to get on Steve's bad side either. Any way to help out his competition is probably not a good idea for me.
He's like, go ahead and work for them, Daniel, but there's some things I need you to do for me while you're over there.
Yeah, well, that's true. I could go undercover. We'll find out what goes on again next month, as we stated last week. Next month is where we're going to start seeing all of these changes, and I'm sure you will be hearing me bitch and complain about it, as you will also hear every other comic shop manager at your local one if you have that kind of relationship with them.
Sticking with some DC news, DC Comics is sending copies of a free promotional magazine for the upcoming 2-month Future State event to comic shops everywhere.
Retailers will receive double the copies that they most recently ordered of Batman. This is exactly like the DC Insider or DC Direct magazines that they came out with about a year and a half ago. They had them up to issue 3 or 4, and then they completely stopped doing them, and it was more of a quarterly magazine thing. Mm-hmm. So I'm glad they're doing this. I don't think it's going to help their sales. You and I are sub to 3 of these Future State books out of the entire line of them. And that's not good. You and I being huge DC fans. And
right.
A big part of that, too, is as I was going through the DC Connect today, I was looking at the creative teams. Mark Russell, he's great, but I didn't sign up for his Lex Luthor miniseries. That may change between now and next year, but the only books that I signed us up for are the new Batman, the Dark Detective, I think is what it's called, and the Harley Quinn miniseries. So that is really it. Everything else we're letting go of, even that Teen Titans Red X debut thing. And it's like,
why are we letting go of that one?
Are you going to want to read it? Teen Titans Future State? Are you going to?
Is
really?
Is it a romance?
I have no idea. I doubt it is.
Well, maybe this magazine will tell me that it's a romance. So
Well,
we
you
should
can-
pick up this magazine and then I'll look and then maybe I'll sign up for it.
We'll get the magazine, and I think most people that want to get the magazine will have it. I think sending doubles of what Batman is, that's plenty. And especially since most readers are not at all interested in this, and they're saying, I'll just read it when it continues in March. I'm not going to sign up for any of these. Then they're going to focus more on indie and Marvel books. And I think that's fine. Again, that's going to hurt comic shops. I think this whole Future State thing is not good overall. But if we get a couple of new characters out of it, and maybe later on we get a miniseries that makes up for these 2 months loss of sales, then so be it. But in the meantime, I hope this magazine helps. I don't think it will. Usually it doesn't.
Be optimistic. Be optimistic, Daniel.
If it was on Diamond's side, if they were distributing, you bet your ass they'd be pushing the fuck out of this. But even me, it's like, how do I sell these comics when I'm doing the preview slides for the shop and the promotional posts? And I'm like, which one do I promote? Batman for sure, I guess. But I guess Justice League? I don't know. Do I just promote the full slate of them? Normally, there's 1 or 2 new series, a mini and ongoing that I can really push each month for every company out there. But in DC side, there's a whole slate of new number ones. I guess I'll put out a list. I really don't know how to handle this, and I don't think it's going to do well regardless.
I think that you can sell a blanket to an Eskimo. I don't know. That was the best I could do in the moment.
Ice to an Eskimo?
There you go. I guess I would need a blanket, wouldn't they? You can sell anything to anybody is my point. So I get that you're not behind this, but I feel like if you were really like, no, I'm going to sell the hell out of this one book, you could do it.
If I was working at GameStop and my job relied on it, yes, then it'd be pre-order this, pre-order that. It looks great. But in this job, the boss encourages us, be honest. If a book doesn't look good, don't go out of your way to trash it, but, say it's not for me or I enjoyed this one instead. And I think that's probably what I'm going to do for Future State. More or less, I've just been telling them, I hope this works out. I hope there's good books. That's really the best I can say about this.
All right. Can't work in food service. Everything is, it's delicious.
Well, now I know they're all lying to me whenever I ask, how's that? How's this?
I do tell some people when it's gross. I'm like, I don't like caramel. And they're like, okay, well, give it to me with extra caramel. And I was like, all right, I guess my opinion means nothing.
Continuing with comic book news, Bleeding Cool is reporting that some comic shops are breaking comic book street dates and releasing books to favored customers straight up on the shelf as soon as they receive them sometimes.
You know what's going to happen to Bleeding Cool?
Steve Jeppy's going to go after them?
Snitches get stitches. They're just snitching on people.
They are.
Hey, guys, look. They're selling them early to their best friends.
They're not supposed to.
Did you try to buy one early, Bleeding Cool, and they wouldn't sell it to you because you weren't their friend?
Probably.
Because that's what you did. When Diamond returned after the shutdown, they didn't bring back the mystery shoppers that were making sure new books weren't being sold early, so the world just became a lawless wasteland, apparently.
Exactly did.
Just whatever we want to do. Steve's not going to send anybody to check it. Release the books early, but only to our friends.
It's so fucking shady, too, and yes, Diamond did used to send in the mystery shoppers. They would usually be much older customers, and I think they were mainly retirees, at least here in Florida, because I could tell that they came in literally with a list of things that they were supposed to ask for. And you can immediately tell that they're a mystery shopper because what they'll do is in the front of the store, they'll take a picture of the front. They'll come into the store. They'll take pictures of the store throughout. They'll take pictures of the TV if you have it. And they'll take pictures of any clutter you might have. Like if you have diamond shipping, which they always come in on Tuesdays. That's the other thing. So on Tuesdays, we always have boxes all over the place because we're breaking down the shipment. But they'll take pictures of that. And then what they'll do is they'll come up, or if you approach them, they'll ask, yeah, do you have TMNT, The Last Ronin #1? I'm looking to pick that up today. And then that's when, if you sell them that, then you broke street date and they can actually withhold your shipment so that you get books late moving forward. And that's kind of the test that they put shops through. But instead you say, no, but I'll offer to hold it for you. It releases tomorrow, blah, blah, blah. They go through a checklist. They see if you're wearing a name tag. And then they send you a report a month or two later telling you how you did. And it's pretty obvious normally who they are, what they're talking about, with the questions they ask, at least with the number of times that I've encountered them. But without that anymore, I guess they could have always sold them early, to be honest with you, because if you've been in the business long enough, you can tell which one's the mystery shopper and which one's not. But yeah, they're just saying, fuck it. There's really no, their staff is so low. They don't really care about the street day because DC's is on Tuesdays. Everyone else's is on Wednesdays. But who's really checking from Lunar or UCS if we're selling them early or not? Shops get them as early as Friday, Saturday sometimes.
Wow.
So it's really weird. And yeah, it is a lawless wasteland, but it's a matter of how much does the comic shop care about having a day that is New Comic Book Day. And honestly, a lot of retailers in the Bleeding Cool comments, once again, were saying there's no benefit to selling these early. Like, who are you really cutting out? Your local competitor? How many shops have that local competitor that is really, really taking massive chunks of money out of you?
Mm-hmm.
And most of the people that are subs, if they get it early, they would have bought it on Wednesday anyway. So it's not like you're making an extra $1 by risking it those extra days early. So really, retailers that are doing this, I don't know why they are. I think maybe it's a matter of laziness. I'll just put them out, get them out there. Who cares?
I mean,
it could be a number of reasons.
It could also be a staffing thing, right? They don't have enough people working, or they can afford to have a certain amount of people on these days or something like that. And yeah, if you got the labor on Tuesday to get it done and you don't on Wednesday, then maybe that's why they're doing it. Not that it's right.
Right. I'd be curious to know if any Brokettes shop at a local comic shop that does sell these early, whether it's DC or any of the other Diamond books, especially now that no one's checking on them. You don't have to name them. You don't have to call them out. I'm just curious if you get your books earlier than everyone else, thanks to your comic shop going, yeah, if you want them, go ahead, here, take them.
You know who would be the best mystery shopper?
Who'd that be?
Steve Jeppy.
Why Steve? He'd be super obvious with his slick back hair.
I'm looking for some of the Batmans or the Archies.
Wearing his breast inspector cancer thing. That literally was on Twitter. That picture, I showed it to you.
You did. It was so great. I'm just going to take some pictures of your really cool shop. Just for myself. Not to check on things. I think Steve is my favorite creation. Like, Ocean Master was pretty great, my Ocean, but Steve just has a life of his own.
All it took was one picture of him that we saw, and then the name, and it all fit perfectly. It's a character onto himself.
It's just excellent.
The rest of this way, we have a lot of media news, and kicking it off with more from Zack Snyder's Justice League, as Joe Manganiello's Deathstroke has joined the cast in the additional photography.
He was initially seen in the post-credit scene in Justice League, but now we're going to get more of him, apparently.
I'm also guessing that it's either going to be the scene in which he does break out Lex Luthor. I don't know if that was filmed or not. There's also the nightmare sequences that that is rumored that Batman teamed up with Deathstroke and Joker in that post-nightmare world. So that could be another thing that they're doing additional photography for. I don't know what it is, but we're all really excited. I think it's funny that Joe Manganiello had the haircut already, hadn't dyed his hair yet, and someone had asked him in an interview about it. And he said, look, it's not for me to break that news. I can't say it. So that's where we're all like, all right, so he's definitely going to be there.
Y'all are actors. You can't just act like nothing's going on. You gotta, I don't know. You're better than this, Joe.
And then in another stream, he came out, he was on the stream and he had his whole hair dyed white. And that's when it was already clear, like, all right, he's definitely going to be doing the additional photography. And then it was finally confirmed.
Why did he dye his hair? Why did he go on a stream with his dyed hair?
You don't know his schedule. Maybe he doesn't. It doesn't matter, Kelly.
I think
it's fine. Let him do what he wants.
Once again, y'all are actors. Shouldn't be spoiling anything. You just act like it's not happening. It's your job.
I love that whatever we're going to get out of this, it's not going to be, some people were saying the League of Our Own thing, and we talked about that last week. How do you feel about Joe Manganiello returning for more Deathstroke?
I mean, I think it's really cool. I think we wanted to see more Deathstroke. I think we were really excited at the time when they were talking about Deathstroke being a major part in the Batman movie, right? We were so excited for that. So even if we never get that movie, getting these little extra pieces, yeah, it definitely brings that excitement back.
Do you think the fact that they're bringing back Joe Manganiello with Deathstroke, obviously expanding on that role in the original Zack Snyder's Justice League, even if it's by a little bit, do you think that confirms that Ben Affleck's script and project is coming back in some form, whether it's a TV show or a movie?
Oh man, I'd be so excited like if it came back in either way. I don't know. I think we're definitely going to get more Snyder, like we talk about all the time, pretty frequently, that we will get more from that universe. Potentially, right? If I were the studio, if I were HBO, I would wait to see how well that does before I would greenlight, this other project. But yeah, you're going to put pieces of that into this. You're going to be okay with that and say, okay, let's see how people react to this. Oh, well, we already have the script. Cool, let's go. Or, wasn't as big as we thought. So not at this time, or maybe not ever.
Very much like when Jared Leto's return was announced, and now with Deathstroke, the comments have come out of, oh, so there was never a Snyder Cut. He is making an entirely different movie. This is all not even what he was going to do in the first place. And everyone's like, yeah, he's doing a 4-hour movie on a $70 million budget in a week of shooting. That's exactly what he's fucking doing.
He's doing the whole thing. The whole thing.
Absolutely ridiculous. It's like people don't think. They really don't.
They just want to be angry about something.
It's always the torpedoing on this.
I'm sad that nothing's come out from my Marvel movies.
They gotta torpedo it. That's exactly what it is, and we know it. We know it's happening. It's already happening. It's been happening for years. Not a shock. We're celebrating. We love Deathstroke. We love Jared Leto's Joker. This is gonna be awesome. This was an awesome confirmation, especially.
You know what I'm gonna do when I'm an actor?
When you play Carrie Kelly?
When I play Carrie Kelly, I'm gonna do things like, cut my hair real short and dye my hair, and then people would be like, Kelly, are you playing Carrie Kelly? And I'd be like, I don't know. It's not for me to say. It's not. But then I'm not really playing her. So it's going to cause an uproar and speculation.
It's always funny because they never answer it that way when it's not the case.
Right.
Normally they just straight up say, no, I'm not doing any work with them. I hope they call me and that's it. But whenever they say I can't comment on it, that's a yes. Every single time.
Okay. But once again, they're actors. Just don't do it. I don't know. It's probably all set up that that's how they're going to respond too. So
could be.
Whatever. I'm done being angry about it, but I'm still kind of angry about it.
Aside from Zack Snyder's Justice League coming to HBO Max, there was a huge, I guess it depends on who you ask, but there was definitely a shakeup at HBO Max, or a change at least in the way that these things are greenlit. According to Variety, feature film programming for HBO Max has undergone what they're calling a restructure, as greenlighting power now falls exclusively with the studio chief, Toby Emmerich.
Toby will be overseeing the rollout to theaters and streaming premieres for HBO Max.
It is speculated that Toby and Jeff Johns both pushed to remove Zack Snyder and Ben Affleck from their projects in favor of the MCU-inspired change in direction after BVS happened. This includes the Matt Reeves, the Batman movie. So them removing Ben and Zack from that gave them the room to make this Matt Reeves project.
Toby famously said this after they forced Zack off of the DCEU, quote, "The directing is minimal and has to adhere to the style and tone of the template that Zack set. We're not introducing any new characters. It's the same characters in some new scenes. He's handing the baton to Joss, but the course has already been set by Zack. I still believe that despite this tragedy, we'll still end up with a great movie," end quote.
So many lies in there. So many. It's absolutely insane. And I know that as soon as this broke, a lot of people in the movement, some were saying it's not a big deal, and others were literally like, we won the battle, but we lost the war. The Zack Snyder's Justice League project is literally going to be it, because Toby's not going to want to greenlight any future Snyderverse movies or shows or anything based on the fact that it's a huge blow to his ego already. There's a lot of hurt feelings based on the fact that Zack Snyder's Justice League is still happening in spite of Toby's wishes of not having it go in that direction. Warner Brothers not moving their feet on Zack Snyder's Justice League. And now the person that is up there, and we're still, a lot of in the movement are saying #fire Toby Emmerich. Now he is in charge of it. People are scared. People are worried about the future of the Snyderverse.
Do you think it's a test?
For whom?
For Toby. Do you think they put him there so they can pin something on him and fire him?
I don't know. I think if Zack were worried, there would have been something on Vero, some cryptic message of I don't know. But instead, the most recent post showed that the additional photography has started. And in the comments, people were like, oh man, you were gone for a little while. We were getting a little worried. And all he said was, no, I've just been busy. And he, answered some questions in the comments, and he seemed like his regular self as far as what was going on. So on Zack's end, I did tell some people, I'm like, why don't we wait to see what Zack says and see if this is really an issue? And others were saying that in the end, yeah, Toby has that green lighting power, but he has someone like Kelli above him who could tell him like, no, you got to green light this because it's going to make us a lot of money. Mm-hmm. And Kelli is on Twitter. He's been positive about the Snyder Cut. We've been like throwing him parades every day to keep him on our good side, right? Like, you're amazing. You're the greatest. Is that what you've been
doing through the house? Is that who that was for? That parade?
So we like Kelli, and he's Toby's boss. So that's kind of we know how to play this game.
Yeah, and I mean, I always want to sit here and assume the best, right? Maybe Toby's seen the error of his ways. Maybe his decision and comments were really fueled by Jeff and the environment that he was in. And I mean, we're 3 years out now from, when all these changes happened and when everything went down. That's some time for people to change, right? And maybe he hasn't come out publicly and has said it, but until I see otherwise, I'm going to assume that he is now on board with the Snyder Cut.
I hope so. And when they announced it, he wasn't exactly the brightest about it. He wasn't celebrating as much as everyone else was. So that's when we were like, yeah, fuck you, Toby. We know you don't want this. And it sounded like he didn't. It sounded like he was like, well, I guess it's happening. And he could have made it happen, and he didn't all these years that we were promoting it. And HBO Max and AT&T came in and said, no, we're going to make this happen. And we're plugging in millions of dollars into it, to the point where financial analysts were saying, okay, well, they're putting in this much money into the additional photography, into potentially setting up the future of HBO Max. Maybe it makes the difference in whether or not it's a successful streaming service 10 years from now. But they were saying that HBO and AT&T are not necessarily investing only in Zack Snyder's Justice League, and not even the Snyderverse, but just to have Zack Snyder on their camp or happy, so that he can do future projects, whether or not they're DC projects. But they were comparing it to like Chris Nolan, who pretty much only does Warner Brothers films, and his movies do incredibly well. So they're like, yeah, we need more of those pillars of filmmaking right now on our side to continue making movies for us in the future, to continue producing that content that is going to pay us in dividends year after year. So yeah, here's this to finish off the additional photography, keep him happy, if you value him, and obviously they do.
Just give him whatever he wants. Can you imagine if Snyder just strictly did things for HBO Max for forever? Like, you'd be subscribed forever.
He and Netflix also have that really good relationship as far as the of the Dead universe that he's working on. But yeah, I mean, people want him. They want him to produce projects for them. Netflix is a big player in this game, especially now in the streaming wars. If you have Zack Snyder suddenly exclusive to Netflix, that's a huge grab for Netflix. And I know AT&T and HBO Max know that, and this is probably why, it easily could have been, we're not going to do the Snyder Cut, and you can just make projects elsewhere, but they didn't want that. And I'm sure when they were doing the negotiations, he threatened, I will not make any more films for this studio. I need this project to happen. And he cared enough about his cut of Justice League that they were like, all right, let's work this out. Let's make this happen. It wasn't working at Warner Brothers, but it is here on HBO Max. So I think it's a great thing. And I hope Toby gets on board, and I hope he doesn't end up being a huge obstruction in the future of the Snyderverse. But we'll keep a close eye on him.
If Zack calls us to do anything, I'm sure Daniel will let you know as well.
Yeah, I'm no longer talking to Jeff. Sorry. Throwing that shit on ignore immediately. He knows it.
HBO Max is bringing back something else that you were very excited. I'm assuming you're excited about it. You did really enjoy the show. We've talked about it a few times. But HBO Max and Cartoon Network have given Warner Brothers Animation, Amblin Television, and Steven Spielberg a 2-season order for their Tiny Toon Adventures reboot, Tiny Toons Looniversity.
Tom Ashim, president of Warner Brothers Global Kids, Young Adults, and Classics, said, quote, Tiny Toons Looniversity will capture all the clever, subversive, and smart humor that made Tiny Toon Adventures such a standout series. Fans old and new will love to laugh at and with these characters all over again, end quote.
Is Tom Ashim related to Adele Dazeem?
Probably. I like Tom. I like Tiny Toons. I like all of these new offerings that are coming to HBO Max. This is great. I love Tiny Toons. Did you like Tiny Toons growing up?
It was okay.
Are you excited for Tiny Toons Looniversity?
Sure.
I'm very excited. I'm excited for Leo to enjoy it one day.
I mean, he probably will. Here's the thing about like Tiny Toons and Looney Tunes and all of that. So much of their humor relied on hitting people with big hammers, and they got squished. And it just wasn't it's not my type of humor.
I can see that with Looney Tunes. Tiny Toons, though, did have a lot of celebrity references.
Oh, I do, yes.
That I know went over kids' heads, and including Michael Keaton, Batman, and all the Madonna shows up at one point, and I didn't know who some of these celebrities were. I still enjoyed it just fine as a kid, though. And I know a lot of those jokes probably made it's kind of like South Park today, where they'll make an episode based on what's happening in politics or in current events, and then people criticize that a month later that's all old news and that's a problem with South Park. I don't think it is. I think South Park is still really successful, but I'm curious to know if Looniversity is going to go the same route of trying to satirize modern celebrities and modern movies, or if they'll just keep it to the world of Tiny Toons.
I don't know, because now that you mentioned that, I do remember they relied a lot on that. And if Steven Spielberg's still very involved with this, and that could be the route that he chooses to go. I mean, either way, we'll watch it. It says Looniversity, so do you think they're going to be like college age, or do you think they're going to be, closer to what they were, which is, I don't even know. What were they, elementary school, middle school?
Yeah, it seemed like it was high school or something like that, maybe elementary school, because they had the regular small desks and it was a little school, and they were trying to get to the university to graduate to become true Looney Tunes, is what I remember. And this one, they are saying that Looniversity is the next step into becoming true Toons, or whatever you want to call it, Looney Tunes. So it sounds like they're in college, but I don't think them calling it a reboot means that it's not just a progression of that old show, that this is maybe a little bit more aimed at adults. And if it's anything like the new Looney Tunes that they did, which is exactly like the old cartoons, then I have full faith in this project, especially when they're bringing back Spielberg and the people from Tiny Toons, it sounds like. Paul Dini better work on at least one episode, I hope.
Would you rank Looney Tunes in like your top 10 favorite cartoons?
I would not.
You seem very passionate about it.
I wouldn't, and it's only because I haven't seen it in many years. This is nostalgia talking right now. This is from what I remember. If I were to see it right now, I don't know if I'd feel the same, but I could say no, it wouldn't be in my top 10.
All right, then.
Gotta be honest, but I am excited for this on HBO Max, and I hope this means that the Tiny Toons show, the original, will eventually make its way over.
We will definitely let you know what we think here on the show.
More on the streaming services. It is our once-a-month highlight of what's new on Netflix, the November 2020 editions.
This is not the full list. You can, of course, go to Google or wherever search engine you use and type in what's new on Netflix November 2020 and get the full list there. This is just what pertains to us, what we're interested in, what we think you all might be interested in.
And it wasn't a huge list, and there is a reason for that, but the first one here is one that commonly comes and goes, but it's one that you should catch, you should watch at least once before you die. It is A Clockwork Orange by the great Stanley Kubrick.
Yeah.
You didn't like this one?
No. It was a very long time since I've seen it, so maybe I need to see it again. I just remember it being very intense and yeah, I mean, one time is good, but it's not something where I'm like, let me go watch Clockwork Orange.
Forever changed Singing in the Rain for many, many generations of people.
Yeah. Up next, we have Ocean's 11.
I remember seeing this in theaters, and this was a big deal back then because you had this ensemble of massive celebrities at the time. This must have been an expensive fucking movie to make. I know people love the MCU and all that, but it was like a celebrity version of the Avengers before all of that shit happened. Like, this was a team up. You have George Clooney, you've got Brad Pitt, and the rest. Like, those were the two biggest names in there. Julia Roberts was pretty big back then. Did you watch Ocean's 11?
I didn't. I saw Ocean's 12, the one with the all-female cast.
There was a new one.
Ocean 13?
You talking about the one that came out like 2 years ago?
Yeah.
I didn't see that one.
I saw that one. That's the only one that I've seen. I never really, people were really excited for this movie and the sequel, and I remember a lot of people talking about it, but I never really knew what it was about. Do they steal things?
Yeah, it's a big heist.
Okay, cool. So, yeah, that's the limit of my Ocean's knowledge.
We should watch it. I think it's enjoyable enough for what it is, a heist movie. But if anything, for the celebrity power that were in there, Don Cheadle was in it.
And Brad Pitt and the rest.
Andy Garcia is the guy they're stealing from, and he was big at that time. I think it's worth watching, especially since it's hitting Netflix.
Well, let's check it out.
And a big reason why this isn't a huge list is because Netflix dumped a ton of Christmas movies and specials and TV shows, one of which is called A Christmas Catch, which is a TV holiday romance.
What happens in it?
I don't know, but I brought it up. I put it on here because I knew you'd be excited about it. I know Spoon knows the Hallmark movies, as he said last year, so I'm sure he's going to get familiar with these Christmas movies. Are you going to fall? How soon until you go deep into these Christmas specials?
Right now. We're going to, in this podcast, I'm going to go turn it on. I got to.
What's the one you were watching for many years? The Christmas Prince?
Yeah, The Christmas Prince. They really lost me with that last movie. The Christmas Prince, a Christmas baby. I don't know. They just lost me.
Well, tons of content for Kelli, at least.
I'm so excited because I can't really watch the Hallmark. I got the Hallmark movie app last year, and it's just not very usable. It's pretty terrible. I want to see what HBO comes out with for Christmas. They should have some original Christmas movies. But listen, I love them. They all have the same plot. We all know what's going to happen from the very beginning. Nothing, it's just very obvious, but I got to know. I got to see it happen.
We'll cover HBO Max next week, but the next one on this list is V for Vendetta, another one that comes and goes on Netflix. I know it's on HBO Max right now. Someone asked me if we can play it in the shop, and it's rated R, so we couldn't.
Aww.
But yeah, it's another one that you say, as always, that it's something that was edgy and cool when you were a teenager. And I recently read the graphic novel, so I want to go and rewatch the movie again.
Well, we will add it to our list. The final thing on here is Hillbilly Elegy.
No, I thought your mama was going to be all right. Be happy.
This is Ron Howard's Netflix debut, starring Amy Adams, also stars Glenn Close. Amazing actors already just on those two leads. From the trailer itself, it looks to have been based on real-life memoirs or a real-life story. From what I gathered, it seems like Glenn Close's character maybe failed in the upbringing of Amy Adams and is kind of trying to make up for it through the new generation, and then in helping Amy Adams once again, her daughter in this film, to maybe, I don't know, it seems like it jumps back and forth between this kid's life as he's an adult, helping out his mom, and then when he goes back and has his grandmother seemingly helping him through life as well.
I watched this trailer and I'm watching this old lady and I'm like, I don't know who's playing her, but she's great. And then it's Glenn Close and I'm like, where the hell you been, Glenn Close? I haven't seen you in years, since 101 Dalmatians. And
that's the last time you saw her.
That's the last time I saw her, 96 or whatever it was. And here she is, like, crushing it. But yeah, it looks like, a difficult story, and not really spoiling anything because you can see it all in the trailer, but it looks like it's a mother who had children very young, 18 years old, and, is still living with her mother and is getting into drugs and alcohol and all these kind of things, trying to escape. And, you really get to see, you're not just living in her life, you're getting to see how it affects her mother. You're getting to see the long-term effects on her children. And as a movie I know I'm going to cry in, obviously, but a difficult story that I think probably a lot of people go through. And it's unfortunate, but I have really high hopes. I think that it will be a great, touching, cry your eyes out movie.
People keep pointing out how on Twitter, Amy Adams just keeps transforming herself for these roles. And this is yet another example of that. She really looks like she's in that fucking world. Like she lives it every single day. And this one is set to make a theatrical debut in limited theaters, which is awesome because I think Netflix has done a few like that. They did it with that Martin Scorsese film, The Irishman.
Oh,
recently.
okay. Yeah.
And so now they're doing it with this, and hopefully we're able to catch it in theaters, but if not, we'll definitely watch it on Netflix. But we're also hoping that this is finally Amy Adams' Oscar, because it's long time coming. She should have gotten it for Arrival. She should have gotten it for many films at this point, but maybe this will be the one.
I hope so. I'm just get ready to dry my tears because I feel them coming already.
A great list, though. I think that's the biggest one. The one I'm most excited for is Hillbilly, what is it, Elegy?
I think LG.
It's spelled Elegy, whatever it is.
Or Elegy.
That's what I thought it was.
Maybe Elegy or LG. I don't know. Who knows?
But before we go into your voted on comic book highlight, we have our Patreon shoutouts of the week. Our thank yous to those of you who make today's show possible.
Our first shout out goes out to Bobby on Twitter at Cuban Slim.
Bobby shared his World Championship Pokemon Series gear in our collector's corner of our Discord.
Cool.
A lot of this stuff going for a lot of money, but they are staff products. So there's stuff that literally says staff on it. He's got play mats. He's got backpacks. I don't know if you remember when he came back from either Worlds or from, was it Worlds?
Somewhere, yeah, but I remember.
He brought back that gear for Scott and I, which was awesome, that amazing backpack, the play mat. And you can see all of it in our Discord. Join it on there. There's a link in our description for today's episode, and then just click on Collector's Corner.
I want to share my collector things.
You should. You should be more active on there.
Collected some yarn.
Do it. Just whatever it takes. Just post on there.
I don't have time. Do you have time for me?
Well, you're the one who brought up that you should post on there, and I think you should.
I'm done. I'm just gonna go now. I'm being attacked.
Next one goes to John on Instagram at Johnny2Chips.
John posted his 9.2 CGC copy of Green Lantern number 40, which crosses over Golden Age Green Lantern with Hal Jordan.
John's got an amazing Silver Age collection of comics, so make sure to follow him on Instagram.
Up next, we have Neil on Twitter at inmats68 or on Insta at inmats.photography.
Neil dressed up as Hagrid for a homecoming at Hogwarts at his school at the seniors' request. Did an amazing Hagrid. He had help from the art department, is what he said in the caption of it. And Hagrid is one of those characters that even when you watch the films or if you just do the books, he is incredible overall. Glad he wasn't killed off. You do not fucking touch Hagrid. And I don't think Neil could have picked a better character to dress as.
If you could dress as one character from Harry Potter, who would it be?
It'd be Snape.
Okay.
It would be Snape.
You'd have to shave your beard.
Oh, yeah. Well, I could go as the novel Snape, because in the book he has a beard. He's got a goatee thing going.
No. That's not dreamy Snape. You gotta go as dreamy Snape.
Final shout out this week goes out to Brian on Twitter at MogoBroquette. Brian
retweeted an image of Y the Last Man along with his caption of, quote, "my favorite work from Vaughn," end quote.
I don't think Brian's read Saga yet.
Yeah, apparently not, if that's his favorite work.
I only said that because I knew that would trigger you.
Yeah, I'm so triggered. When's that book coming back out? It's been over a year now.
Y the Last Man's a really good read, though. Really solid. It went like 7 volumes of the trade paperback, and this is back when they were doing like trades that were twice the size of today's.
Seriously, Saga's been gone for a year.
It'll be back in about a year.
You tell me that every year.
Yes.
Every time we bring it up, you tell me he's going to be... Where's Brian? Let me tweet him.
Brian K. Vaughn, yeah. He's been more active on Instagram, too, which is cool.
Okay, well, let me tweet him on Instagram. Is that how it works? You tweet people on Instagram?
You could be one of hundreds of people asking about Saga.
What does he say when they ask?
I don't look. I don't check. He should say in about a year.
Stop!
Huge thanks once again to Brian, Neil, John, and Bobby for your Patreon support this month.
If you too would like your shout out every single month for as little as $1 a month, that's just 25 cents an episode, you too can have your shout out and we'll stalk you a little bit.
We also want to give a huge thanks to Jose from KingdomT-shirt.com, who handles our decals every quarter.
But that will wrap up our shout-outs for the week. Now we can move into 2 comic book highlights. First one as chosen by the Brokettes.
Voted on by a large margin, it is TMNT The Last Ronin #1 of 5, written by Kevin Eastman, Tom Waltz, and Peter Laird, art by Kevin Eastman, Izao and Isaac Escorza, and Ben Bishop, with colors by Luis Antonio Delgado.
Esau.
Is it Esau?
I bet it's Esau. It's a biblical name. I think Esau and Isaac were brothers too. Whoa, weird.
That is weird. So TMNT, this comic book highlight, both this and the 3 Jokers, I think we need to talk about with spoilers because so much of it has to do with the characters, with the villains. So this is your spoiler alert for both comic books because it is kind of a deep dive on one of the Turtles and then in our next review on what happens in The Killing Joke and with these Jokers. So this book, let's go right into it. The Last Ronin, as you all know, it is a 5-issue miniseries. The first printing of the first issue was underprinted, but hopefully you were able to get your copy. And if not, there's a second print coming. Is it worth the read?
Yeah, 100%. It gutted me. That last panel gutted. Stabbed me with that broken sword.
Much like the title implies, this is the final Turtle. It is in the far future as well. We still don't know how the other Turtles are gone, and it doesn't tell you which Turtle it is until the final page of the series. But I think so far it's been a pretty simple story. We see that this Turtle is trying to take down the grandson of Shredder, who has basically taken over a city and manipulated people into these android RoboCops, and it doesn't seem to be a great future.
Definitely not. So it kind of opens up with this turtle going through all this kind of nasty sludge that's just left over from all this pollution and gets into this city. And the city's thriving and is a very futuristic city and cars are flying. And so definitely in a very, very far future. So I'm guessing it's far future New York is probably where it is. And it's Shredder's grandson, Karai's, he called him his bastard son. So I'm like, who's his dad? I'm like, tell me, who's his dad?
I hope it's Casey. It's just someone weird.
Well, no, Casey, like, I'm 100% sure that girl is his daughter. So anyway, he shows up and, you know, the whole time you see the other turtles talking to him, right? Through every decision, everything that he's doing, he's talking to his brothers and he's like, no, I have to go this. And they're ribbing on him like, oh, you can't really do that. Or, you know, you're forgetting to do this as always, et cetera, et cetera. And he's pretty much trying to infiltrate this giant tower to kill Shredder's grandson because supposedly beyond just turning people into reboots, he is also just like killing people in the street and like leaving them hanging everywhere and really enslaving this city. And so he's like, sick of it. This guy killed my brothers. I gotta destroy him.
And it seems to be a suicide mission, which he's already accepted. And they do a good job in the writing of not revealing which turtle it is until that very final page. And even as you're reading it, you're kind of guessing, all right, well, maybe it's Leonardo. I'm thinking it's Raphael, or, oh, he's got some tech skills. Maybe it's Donatello. And the whole time, this turtle is not himself in many ways. Even after you go back and reread it and you know who it is, you're not like, well, they're acting that they're not. They're a broken turtle. They don't have their brothers, and they've instead relied on a mental mechanism of, I need them with me always. And this is a way in which I have them. And it's done really well. I don't think that's how I would have necessarily treated, and let's just go forward with it. But Michelangelo being the last turtle, you must have been heartbroken and happy.
I was gutted in my soul because, like you said, the whole time, and of course you're trying to figure out who it is the entire time, right? And there, he's using all his brother's weapons, right? He's got all of them. He's just wearing a little face mask. His face is all wrinkly and craggly and just, really, really old. But yeah, nothing like himself. I tried to get in the mindset of, well, it's a very mature turtle. He's much, much older. Of course, not a teenager anymore. But even reading what his brothers are saying, trying to figure out, okay, which brothers are those? Because by process of elimination, it would be this other one. And I was like 100% convinced it was Raphael.
Yeah.
Like 100% through this whole thing. And I was like, yeah, no, it's Raphael, because you got that one turtle like cracking jokes the whole time. And I was like, that's Mikey, right? Definitely not. And then, you have this moment, and I'm so sad when he's just like, nope, I'm going to lose anyway. I'd rather die by my own hand than by this guy. And he pulls out the sword, and I'm like, well, maybe it's Leonardo then, because he's using the sword right at the very end. And then another spoiler, right? April's there, and he wakes up, and she's like, Michelangelo. And I was like, I was falling on that sword right then and there, because that's my favorite. That's my man. It's my favorite turtle.
I love the idea that he became skilled at all his brother's weapons as well. And I think that's a way in which he also keeps them with him. I don't think without any of that or that path or that training, he could have continued. And that's also a reminder to him of what they would say as he's using it. No, that's not your strength, Mikey. You should instead do this. And that's when he's like, you're right. And that's when he does that. Whenever he tries to do something like his brothers, he doesn't do it as well. So I love how they did that. And yes, it's a simple story, but you're very much in the mind of Michelangelo as he's taking his brothers with him. He misses Splinter. He misses, their father. And even that he has with him. And he's remembering Splinter's training on top of that. So I thought it was really smart that they ended up going. I think maybe the easy route or the safe route would have been to do Raphael. But I think the hardest one to write for is probably Michelangelo as the last turtle.
Yes.
I knew it wasn't going to be Donatello because he's not a popular enough turtle for people to be like, oh, he's the last Ronin. And I think Leonardo you might have been able to pull off, but I really thought it would have been Raphael.
Yeah, but I think out of all of them, Leonardo would have been the easiest and the safest, because being the leader, right, he would have then been very much of, okay, let me go and like avenge my family, right? Because I've been the leader this whole time and I let them down and I gotta go. Raphael, I would have, even in this older age, seen him much more angry about it and making decisions based on that. I think that Michelangelo is definitely the most difficult, but you're going to get the most emotional aspect of it, because you want to sit there and talk about a broken turtle, talk about the turtle that relied so much on his family and those relationships, and now he's all alone, and it sounds like he has been for a decade. He has spent 10 years by himself, and there's probably like a crazy aspect to the point that he's still hearing his brothers, because he's spent 10 years trying to do this all by himself and try to overcome, I guess, almost that little brother syndrome where he needed those others, that he really relied on them and needed them there. And like, my heart is broken.
Yeah.
because it's just so upsetting that he's the one left, because he's the one that it would impact more than any of them.
Yeah, he or Raphael would be the most broken over this, but Michelangelo more is like in a childish way, where he's like this innocent. Yeah, he's the most innocent, I feel like. I don't know why, but out of all the turtles. And I think a lot of that too is the fact that he does crack these jokes in front of his brothers. And that's the thing, when they started to evolve the turtles, especially after the movie, they made them all, funny and not so much like, oh, only Michelangelo. And if you go even back further to the original issue, they were all like these heavy, dark, no nonsense characters, but they've since evolved from that. But I am glad that Eastman and Laird are working on this, because they're the co-creators of the turtles. And I think they could tell that Last Ronin story and do it properly. And I know, from what I understand, this is their first project together in many, many years.
That's amazing. Spoiler alert from the Palpa, he's 100% going to die in the end.
By issue 5, you think so? You don't think
100%.
You don't think it's going to be a Dark Knight Returns where he sets up a future resistance against and kind of solving and helping the city in the name of his brothers?
Nope. 100% gonna die and be reunited with his brothers for realsies.
I don't think so. I think he's going to find a new family by the end of it.
Not gonna happen. He's gonna die.
I guess we're going to find
That'll
out by
be
issue
way
5.
more impactful. Like, he takes down the guys, right? And he's worked with whatever Jones, Casey and April's daughter. Who
Could be.
knows? Because she did take him to April, right? And he's like gonna empower her to go and start this thing and do his whatever. But it's his time to go. He's lived long enough. He gotta go. My sweet Mikey.
Do you think they'll tell us how each of the turtles went down or how Splinter
for
went
sure.
down?
You'll probably we have what, 4 more issues? So yeah, absolutely. Because the bad guy will do it like in a moment of weakness, right? To pick at him and be like, oh man, I remember when I killed your one brother and it was like this. And I remember when I killed Splinter. Do you think Karai's going to come out of her like hibernation and like kill her bastard son too?
I don't know. She'll definitely wake up at some point. I don't know what she's going to end up doing, whether it's good or bad. I am curious to know how the, Eastman and Laird are going to write the demise of each of the turtles, because I think they're going to make each one, it's going to be done in a way that defines the characters. And I think that'll be cool to see. I don't think it's going to be a matter of, a huge explosion in the sewer and that killed them all and Mikey just wasn't there or whatever. I think it'll be that each one went down in their own way.
My heart hurts already just thinking about this. Oh, I'm so sad. This series is going to gut me. 100%. I love my turtles.
Really good first issue. I don't know if the bigger format was necessary for this. The artwork was nice, but it's not like the DC Black Label where it was magazine size. It was a little bit wider than comic books. I would say probably silver, but then it was as tall as a magazine. So that was the one thing that I'm like, all right, well, this is why they attributed the shortage of printings, because it was an odd printing for them. But in case you do bag and board your books, a magazine size bag and board will fit these. And I was disappointed in that in a way, because at the comic shop, when the Ashcan edition came out, the only one it would fit in was the life-size bag and board. So I ordered an extra pack of life-size bags and boards so I could sell them in singles to every issue of Last Ronin. Last Ronin comes in and it's a little bit shorter and short enough to fit in magazine size. So I'm like, fuck. Like, now I have all of these.
You'll go through them eventually.
I hope so. We still haven't gone through the ones we ordered 3 years ago. So we'll find out.
So I think that was definitely recommended by both of us. So the next book we have on our list is Batman the Three Jokers, number 3 of 3.
This is written by Jeff Johns, art by Jason Fabok, and colors by Brad Anderson. So you got to read issues 2 and 3 back to back. So you got kind of a more complete picture as to where these are going. This is once again going to be another spoiler-filled review, because there is a big change to the Killing Joke that does happen out of this. We also get the confirmation of, are there 3 Jokers? Is it all in his head? Is it the same Joker? All of that is answered in this issue. Let's get your thoughts.
I didn't hate it as much as I thought I would.
You thought you would?
Well, yeah, with there being 3 Jokers, I was like, nah, bitches, can't have 3 Jokers.
But it's written by Jeff Johns.
Nah, bitches, can't have 3 Jokers.
And it turns out there really are 3 Jokers.
There really were 3 Jokers,
and it seems to be in continuity, because it shows you Greg Capullo's Joker, and it shows us the Killing Joke.
Yeah.
So it references that this does take place after the New 52 Batman.
I mean, it does. I don't think that I really read this and was like, oh, yeah, this explains everything that's ever happened. Like, that wasn't I was like, oh, yeah, this is a cool story. Like, if I choose not to believe that this happened, then I don't have to, right? It's just one Joker.
That's one of the things. So let's get that out of the way. The purists are upset that Jeff changed retroactively a big part of the Killing Joke with this 3rd issue. So there are 3 Jokers. There's the Premier Joker, which appeared back when Batman was around, the one that wasn't laughing all the time, and he kind of
criminal Joker,
the mastermind. Yeah, and that's the one that says he can't laugh because it hurts him when he laughs. It physically hurts him, and that's one of the reasons he doesn't really want to or like to laugh, and that also explains the more serious nature of that Joker back when they were first printing him. Then they got to the 60s and early 70s where we got the more kind of goofball Joker that I guess I don't even know if you can say any modern Joker was inspired by it, But that's where you had like Gaggy the Clown as his sidekick, and that's the one that they say killed Jason Todd, and that was that era. And then you have the modern Joker, so that includes the current Joker that's going on, the Greg Capullo one, who is the Killing Joke. That's the comedian. That's the one who went through the one bad day and became the Joker that we know now. And they're saying that that is the current Joker that's alive. And Jeff does, while he explains all of those eras, he keeps it mysterious enough to... It could have been any one of those that was the original. The Killing Joke one says, I was disappointed when I made the Mastermind Joker. Or did he make me? And that's where he leaves it. Because as Batman says, it's not important to know who the Joker was or who the first one was or any of that. All that we know is that 2 other Jokers were created by one of them. And one of these is the original and the other 2 are not. Or it could very well be, like he said, that there was one even before then that we don't even know about. Who knows? But this is the 3 modern eras. But the Killing Joke one seems to be the prime Joker. And by the end of it, they say that death of his pregnant wife that set him down that path of, well, I'm just going to go ahead and join the Red Hood gang because what I have to lose type of thing, type of mentality. Well, Batman reveals that his wife was not killed. She was instead taken away for her protection and the protection of her, what we learn to be son, which greatly changes not only the character of the Joker because he does have a son out there in continuity, but also changes Alan Moore's work if you choose to let this, be that sequel in a way.
Yeah, I can see how people were upset. I thought it was a really cool spin. And I liked even Batman's role within it because, he's talking to Alfred and, Alfred talking about like, what if you knew his name or something? And Batman's like, psh, please, I've known his name since like the first week he showed up. And
Exactly.
Alfred's surprised about it. And he's like, but, you have to understand if this were to ever get out, his name isn't important. It's what I'm protecting by not, sharing his name and understanding that if it ever got out, that his family, even though it's not really his family, but, this woman and his child would be targeted forever.
Exactly. Their whole lineage. There'd be people trying to end that in fear that his son or family or whatever would continue that insanity or that Joker in the future. So that was another neat way in which Jeff was able to keep that mystery. And for me, it was satisfying. For a lot of people, it was not satisfying to them of like, that's not the ending they wanted. They wanted something more or more answers, but you really can. And the story says this over and over again. You cannot pinpoint the Joker. You can't nail him down.
Right.
Yes, you can give him an origin, but in this case, there's several Jokers, and whichever one you want to, in your mind, to be the first one, if any of them, then it's there, and you can choose to believe what you want. But do you think it was necessary for him to go back to Killing Joke, change that part to keep the name thing mysterious?
I don't know. I think there were other ways that he could have done it. Did I like it? Sure. I thought that it was okay and was an interesting take on it. I do think my favorite part of this whole book, though, was the involvement with Joe Chill.
Yes.
And Joker's kind of the way he used him because he cares about Batman and kind of going back to that mindset of he's obsessed with Batman and wants all of Batman's attention, which is why he does all the things that he does.
The mastermind or the criminal Joker wanted to make another Joker out of Joe Chill to really hurt the Batman. And in his mind, he could have made the best Joker by making one out of the man who helped create the Batman. And that's what he wanted to do. But of course, Batman saves Joe Chill, is able to forgive him. Joe Chill kind of confesses himself as deeply regretting what he did to the Waynes because these weren't the people that he thought he was out to hurt them, but he didn't realize who they really were and how much they were helping Gotham. And through that, Batman gets a lot of resolution to his childhood trauma, almost to the point where you could have almost undone the Batman in a way by taking away all of that. But instead, the Joker said, no, I've taken away your greatest pain, so now I'm your greatest pain. So I've healed that wound because I'm going to be that wound for you from now until until we're both dead, is what he says. And that's, again, what you said. It's making him into a better Batman. It's making Joker the center of his attention, in his mind at least. We don't know if Batman, maybe to him it's still his Bat family or whatever it is, but it's a smart way for them to explain Joe Chill and to give him that resolution. And I thought that was a cool way to really explore and mend little Bruce's trauma.
Definitely agree. And I kind of had to stop for a second at the point where, because, you know, they're pointing out these different Jokers, right? The comedian, the criminal, the other guy, and then all these people they're trying to turn into Jokers, right? And it even says what they are, right? And it's all the something that they're not able to turn. And they get to, you know, at one point he says, you know, he thought that he could turn this Joker into the one that mattered, you know, but this Joker wants to be the one that mattered. And I think he even said to Batman at one point that Batman was the broken Joker, didn't it? It's something like that. Okay. Batman was the broken one. And so Joker's like, no, I'm going to heal you, right? I'm going to take this one that matters and I'm going to heal it so that I can matter. And I was like, Joker, you're too kind, but also really Joker.
It was an incredible. It's one that I want to reread when it comes out as a hardcover, as a trade paperback. We haven't talked about Batgirl, Jason, and Batman. There's a huge conflict between Batman and Jason here, where he's saying, you can't turn me in. I murdered one of the Jokers. I'm going to kill the other ones. Barbara's saying, if you kill the Joker, then I'm going to have to testify against you. So now you're putting me out there. If you decide to do this, we're going to play this by the book. And there was a moment in the second issue, which a lot of people had a big problem with, but Jason Todd fans loved it. And this is in which Batgirl has that moment with Jason in which they do kiss. And Barbara immediately afterwards says, this isn't what you think it is. It was just a moment. And Jason's not ready to let that go. And by the end of it, there's this whole note of, if you don't want us to happen, I will stop being the Red Hood. I will change who I am. I will very sick thinking in how he's going about this. But that note never gets to her. And in the note itself, he says, if this doesn't matter to you, then just throw this away. I'll never bring it back up. And so it is forgotten in this issue until a writer maybe decides to bring it back up. But I don't feel like that served a purpose in the overall thing. I don't think it helped in growing Jason Todd. I think it made him, to me, more unlikable. I don't think it helped Barbara at all. It didn't help in her growth. I think if Jeff had taken that time more, and I don't know, I'm not a fucking writer, so what do I fucking know? But as a fan, I think that time could have been better used in exploring her trauma more with the Killing Joke or current Joker, as much as they spent time with Jason in the first issue with his Joker.
I definitely agree with that. It just, I just saw Jason as more whiny by the end of it, because he was like, oh, we kissed, like we should be together now. It's like, Jason, really? Are you a high school girl? I don't understand. And Barbara kept being like, no, I'm not about this. And even, you know, him killing that person and her just looking at him and say, I will unmask myself to like bring you to justice if this happens again, right? And she just seemed way more mature than he did in like the whole thing. And yeah, with the note, and it fell off the door, and I didn't even care. I was like, yep, Jason, nobody's gonna talk about it. Like, nobody wants to remember this. But yeah, the way, you know, the things that he was saying in the note about how much he would change himself, I mean, one, yeah, is pretty sick thinking to say, I will completely change myself for another person. But two, is he really going to change? No, probably not. I think the intention of them being together was to, you know, share in this mutual trauma that they had from this person that they thought was one person. And, you know, of course, they found out was two different people. But, you know, it would have been better served if they found comfort as friends within that and found a way to work through it. But trying to force this relationship and shove it into a few pages and panels really didn't, for me, serve any purpose.
I also never pictured Barbara wanting to kiss Jason.
No.
I felt like it was more of a friend or brotherly relationship. Now, granted, I haven't read a ton of issues where he was still Robin and he interacted with Barbara, but I just didn't see where that attraction would have come to the point where she's like, no, I'm going to kiss him in this moment.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, he was shirtless and in a towel, and he probably got a 6-pack. So I don't know.
So that's enough. That's what Barbara.
Sure,
that's
I
enough for
guess.
Barbara.
Sure, I guess. I like how Gordon had to pop up too and be like, "You shouldn't be hanging around with that fellow." And I was like, "Oh my god."
And I was like, "That's right, Gordon." And they reveal she calls him dad by the end of the book.
Yeah.
I think that was the weakest part of that was that issue 2 out of all of these. I'm not upset about the concept of 3 Jokers. I think you could take it or leave it in the end. You could say that my manager was saying there's probably, if you really wanted to, you can probably dig deep into the 80 years of Batman comics with Joker appearances and find parts or panels where it contradicts a concept of 3 Jokers. But I think realistically, it's just a matter, obviously, of change in eras and writers and tones. And that's why these characters, including the Batman, have changed over time. You know, Batman with the purple gloves and guns and killing, or at least killing more than he does now, then yeah, you could easily say, oh, that was another Batman. But this is a cool story that they told and a cool way in which they could explain there being 3 Jokers.
Yeah, I don't think that this changes my mindset that it really is 3 Jokers or has been for this entirety or whatever. I see this as a very out of continuity, interesting story, interesting take on the characters. But I don't think moving forward, I'm going to be like, oh, which Joker is this? Did they create a new one? X, Y, and Z. It wasn't significant enough for me to really change my mindset. And I really don't want there to be 3 Jokers. Like at the end of the day, I think the way that they told the story was cool. I'm less upset about, the idea of 3 Jokers than I was initially, but it doesn't change it. I'm a 1 Joker kind of girl.
My only question is at the beginning where these other 2 Jokers came out, there were obviously 2 other people that were transformed into the Joker. And I think the only one that we know the origin of seems to be the Killing Joker, which is the last one that lives. And with the death of the others, then if they wanted this to be in continuity, he wouldn't necessarily have to really taunt Jason anymore over him being the one who killed him, because it wasn't him. It'd be a different Joker. And Jason Todd, in a way, if killing the Joker brought him peace, would have peace over that now because he did murder the Joker that killed him. But the one thing too is in the second issue, or was it, I think it was the first one, he tells him, you became what I wanted you to. You are my creation. So that could always still haunt him.
Oh, yeah, probably will. And Bruce even says, right? He said Jason could kill all 3 Jokers and he still wouldn't find peace. Barbara and Jason will never be, away from this, away from him, regardless of if he's still alive or not. Going back to that trauma is just going to stay with him forever. And they just cope with it in very different ways. Jason by being a whiny bitch.
Wow.
I don't like Jason Todd.
Mr. Edgelord Robin, that's who he is. And I hope fans like him. I'm sure they liked this iteration of him because I know I wasn't crazy about it. I didn't like him more by the end of it. In fact, I liked him a little bit less. It's between him and I don't know, man. I liked Tim Drake more than Jason. If I had to rank him, I guess I would go with Damian Wayne, then Tim Drake, followed by Dick Grayson, and then Jason Todd.
You like Tim Drake more than you like Dick Grayson?
They're interchangeable. It depends on the day. Damian's definitely far ahead number 1, though, in my mind. And Jason is far below as my least favorite Robin. He's the worst Robin.
Like below the ground? Like
a few times.
In
right?
a Lazarus pit?
Yeah, that's right. That's the one redeeming thing he has. He has a connection to my favorite Batman villain, Ra's al Ghul, so he's saved in that aspect. Gets a couple points there.
Okay, sure.
But there you have it, everyone. Our 2 comic book highlights this week. Even though 3 Jokers was on the poll, even before I put up the poll, I told Pavel Kelly we have to talk about issue 3 of the 3 Jokers. And TMNT Last Ronin ended up winning, so we got 2 highlights for you this week. Hope you enjoyed them. Let's head into our final portion of today's episode. It is the Brocat Block.
This is what happened with Daniel and I this week. I only have one big piece of news that happened to me.
It is big.
It is giant. You came into the kitchen from work yesterday and you said, Palpa Kelly, I got you a just because present. Not a Christmas present, just because. It was an early Christmas present. And you're like, but I don't know where I'm going to store this, so I'm just going to bring it into the house. And I had no idea what it was. I was like, I don't know, whatever. And you bring in this giant ass Pikachu pop. I didn't even know it was created. It's like as big as our child. It's my other child. And it's just beautiful.
You like it?
I do. I love it. I didn't even know. I took down our honeymoon photo to put up a giant Pikachu in our room.
You did. I know they probably won't make a giant Bulbasaur.
Never.
But I'm like, they made a giant Pikachu though. And I know if she likes Pikachu as much as I like Bulbasaur, she would want this. But I did tell you, I'm like, no hard feelings if you don't want this. If you're like, what am I going to do with this? That's fine. I'll just take it back tomorrow. But here it is.
Here it is.
I'm not going to wait till Christmas and hide it somehow. And because people are like, just keep it in your trunk. And I'm like, that's not going to work. We go grocery shopping.
Yeah,
where else am I going to hide this?
I mean, you could have hid it in the closet, but I do go in there sometimes, so I probably would have found it.
And it's also a giant Pikachu.
Yeah.
It's not a big closet. And I wasn't going to wrap it and then keep it somewhere because I know Leo probably would have opened it if I just kept it out there.
You made the right decision. Just
I'm
give
glad
it
you
to me
liked
now.
it.
I do.
Yeah.
I love him. He's hanging out in our room.
Leo loves it too.
Oh my God.
He was sitting next to it, coloring next to it.
He was hugging it. He gave it a kiss at one point. He was carrying it everywhere.
He knew Pikachu immediately.
I know. He really wants to keep playing with it, but I'm worried. I'm concerned because he'll drop it or something, and then his head will pop off, and that'll be it for Pikachu.
Or he'll scuff it.
Yeah.
Or the tail will come off. And
something.
Who knows? My update is back with the tadpoles. We have like little frogs now that are on the edge of the bowl, the planter, and on the edge of the little wooden plank that's in there for them to get in and out of. And I like that even though some of them are fully grown, well, I don't say fully grown, but they're frogs at this point, little frogs. They're still hanging out there.
Yeah.
I thought that for sure they would migrate. They would go elsewhere. They would start eating bugs around the bushes. They would leave.
This is the only home they've ever known.
Yeah. And I'm not ready to kick them out. They can stay as long as they want. All those, would you say there's probably hundreds in there?
Yeah, easily.
If they all make it to froghood, they can hang out here. They have a home. It's a lot of frogs, but they have a home here.
You're going to come like fill the bathroom with all your frogs, just fill up the bathtub.
Yeah, we were joking yesterday that I'm going to convert one of the bathrooms into a terrarium. And I'm going to import mosquitoes for them because that's good for them and just get ridiculous.
I like how you import mosquitoes. Like they're not even Florida mosquitoes. You ship them from somewhere else.
I get shipped ones from the lab that are definitely free of Zika or whatever it is.
Good.
So they're clean mosquitoes because inevitably they're going to roam about the house.
Why would you do this to me? Is that you were buying the Pikachu to bribe me? Is that what it really was?
So now I've already moved them into the bathroom. I've got all these supplies. What'd you think of the little froggies?
They're so cool. It's really awesome watching their life cycle, right? As they grow and they went from these like giant tadpoles and now they're little frogs and like much smaller than they were when they were tadpoles. So just really cool. I know Leo has enjoyed, getting to spend that time with you and go out and watch these frogs grow. I didn't tell you, I haven't shown you the picture yet. So you remember when you first got these, I talked about how I had tadpoles when I was a kid and got to watch them grow. Taking Leo to his appointment the other day, I went past the place where we got them and I was like, damn, blast from the past. So I took a picture of the place.
What is it, an actual pet store or?
No, it was just some random garden store, or it was at the time, and I just remember the building, but they just sold plants there and they happened to have water plants outside and a frog had laid frogs. So they were trying to get rid of them because tadpoles were eating all their plants. And so we happened to be there. We happened to be there and they were talking about it. My mom was homeschooling at the time and she's like, oh, this would be awesome. We have an aquarium at home. The kids can watch like frogs grow. And so that's what we did.
That's amazing. And I hope Leo will come out with me tomorrow because today he didn't want to come outside to look at the frogs. And as soon as you came out and looked at them, they were jumping all over the place. They were really cool. They're sticking to the sides. And I think as soon as he sees them, he's going to really, really like them. He's probably going to want to hold one. I don't know if I'll let him. I don't know if I've read that human oils can hurt frogs. So
potentially, yeah.
I don't know, but we'll see what his reaction is. And I'll be sure to take a picture and tweet it out at some point this week.
The rest of the week for me, it was same old, a lot of school, a lot of work, still helping my family get settled in their new house. And yeah, I'm tired. I'm so tired, but that's pretty much all that's gone on in my world.
This weekend, we're going to go see the Liam Neeson, The Honest Thief. So maybe we'll have our thoughts on that next week. we were sold on the trailer right away. It's
we
Liam
were sold
Neeson.
on Liam Neeson, please.
Yeah, that's
we didn't
true.
even need the trailer.
On the run, and he's killing people. Sold. I don't care who he's on the run from, but this time it's the police and the government. They're out to get him. He's framed.
We could see any trailer and it could go Liam Neeson. And we'd be like, yep, done.
I still love that he said he was done with action movies, but here he is once again with another one.
Of course. Got to pay the bills.
Can't wait to see it. We're going to go to Cinemark and check it out. So maybe, I don't think there's going to be many changes from the last time we went. When I reserved our seats, there's still the 2-seat gap, which is
good.
nice.
Yeah. Get lots of space.
And I'm glad we're catching it now because it's the only showtime for The Honest Thief. So I think by next week it's going to be gone.
It's going to be gone. Yep. Very true.
At the comic shop, we set up our Halloween decorations, so that's cool, but it's only going to be for about a week. We do have the purple and orange lights that we put around the counter, and I'm still waiting for that one person to come in and say, oh, a little early for Christmas, isn't it? Happened twice last year, and I know it's going to happen this year. My part-timer, she thinks it's not, my full-timer, she thinks it's not going to happen. It definitely is. It happens every year. It's going to happen this year, and I told her to keep an eye out because it will. She's like, but their lights are orange and purple. I'm like, it doesn't matter. They're Christmas-shaped lights or holiday lights, whatever. People just see lights. They assume it's Christmas.
Joke's on you, the people who said that were colorblind.
They could have been. Yeah, they could have been.
Now you feel bad.
Now I'm an asshole. Anything else before we close out today's episode?
No, I think that's all that I have.
We want to give you all a huge thanks for your subscriptions, your listens, your downloads this month, because this was our second highest, most downloaded month in the show's history.
Amazing.
We just topped, I think it was July of this year, which was our third most downloaded. And now October has become, who knows, we still have a few more days in October. It's feasible to become the most downloaded month in the show's history. But regardless, huge thanks. If you enjoyed the show at all, make sure to tell a friend. Word of mouth is the most effective method in the show's growth for any podcast. So if you have other podcasts you enjoy, whatever the topic is, if you have that friend or family member, make sure to tell them about that podcast. But otherwise, I've been Chaser Daniel.
And I am Emperor Palp Kelly.
At Broke at Core, all will be well. Have you been keeping up with your Inuyasha sequel anime thing that hasn't debuted in the US yet?
You're damn right I have been.
What's it called?
Yashahime.
And you've been keeping up for one reason, because I've been hearing about it.
All of the time. I gotta know who the mother of Sesshomaru's twins are.
And?
Well, I don't know. We're like 4 episodes in Japan and we still don't. They're teasing us. They know we want to know.
They know.
And so that's why they're not telling us. And so it fucking pops up on my Samsung News now when I pull up my phone. And so then I'll like click the website and they always start with like, oh, they announced some interesting family ties in the last episode. I'm like clicking so fast. I'm like, let me read. Still nothing.
Well, how many viewers do you think will drop off as soon as they tell us who who the twins' mother is?
I don't think like any of them.
You don't think they're waiting so that you get familiar with the new characters and grow attached to them, give them a chance to really get you hooked in before they give you all the answers?
I mean, maybe, but here's the thing. As soon as they announce it, then I'm going to be watching the episodes because right now I'm not, because I'm going, what's the point? I don't even care.
Well, I'm going to say that's not true, because if they say that Ren, is not their mom, you're going to be pissed and you're going to stop watching.
I'm not going to watch it all. Yeah. I'm not even going to like read. If they say like, oh, this rando person, I'm going to be like, hell no.
Not real.
Not
There's
about
no three
fake
jokers.
news. Let me go read this fan fiction.